It is Monday, September 21st, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Yes, I actually did kind of get my ass kicked today at Jiu-Jitsu. Today, we did some interesting stuff from the butterfly. Mostly it was a migration from the butterfly up to a like if your opponent is addressing you in a butterfly position, right? And breaking through the butterfly and carrying it out into an arm triangle. Now, as those of you who have listened to the show a lot would know, I love the arm triangle. I love to crush people with the arm triangle. Although today we were doing it a little bit differently. In all honesty, I was really glad for the change in concentration, because my tendency with the arm triangle is once I feel my arm get up under the chin of my opponent, my tendency is to try and squeeze and try and make that the thing that closes out the arm triangle. However, today we were doing things a little bit differently, and I liked it a lot because as the instructor was saying, the issue with trying to do it with strength is that eventually you burn out your arms. You know, you make your arms inoperable, and of course cuts back on your ability to defend yourself. And in the event that they happen to get out of that one, you know, you just burn through all your gas in your arms trying to seal the deal on this fucking broken arm triangle. And so yeah, you know, I like I said, any kind of tip that extends my gas tank, I want to be taking advantage of that. There were some issues, at least I had, and it might have been just with the opponent that I was working with. I didn't know if we were actually trying to seal the meal with regard to that arm triangle. I probably should have been trying to do the arm triangle, because we did some positional sparring at the end, and god damn, I love positional sparring. I love it, I love it, I love it. There's probably nothing other than the drilling itself that has informed my jiu-jitsu more than starting off from that position that we just tried to work into our nervous systems for the last hour, you know, and try and navigate just from that position, because, you know, the incidents that you'll get to employ any specific technique is probably going to be once every 3 or 4 times that you get on the mat. Of course, it really depends on the player, depends on how sophisticated you are. Yes, I know you guys are out there that you could just like pick somebody out of the lineup and arm bar them all day long, and even pick the arm that you're arm barring them. I know you exist, because I can feel like the tendency of that game, like somewhere in the back of my mind, saying I want to develop that I could just roll with anybody and pick the way that I want to submit them. I'm not there yet, but I know you exist. Anyway, the thing that I liked, though, is that, again, we're starting from the position. You get like 10, 11 times where you can go through, you know, in a 4 or 5 minute period and work through this position. You know, and try and secure the submission, or, you know, try and use it to get out of the thing that it was meant to get out of, or, you know, I had the desire a lot while I was doing drills with my partner to try and employ certain negation methods, and it's funny because like the playful side of my brain was just going really active, and so like at one point I had him in a full rubber guard. Another point, and the last thing I did on positional sparring that I think surprised him is that we were doing swapping back and forth, where we go for like a minute or so with one opponent attacking and then swapping. Well, it was my turn to receive, and not only did I negate him from getting through my guard, but then I swept him at the end of it and assumed side mount, or side control rather. So, that was just a little bit of fun on my part. I trapped his ankle and popped him on over. But like I said, getting the opportunity to apply the technique that you just learned, I think, like I said, focusing on it specifically like that and getting to explore it for, 10, 15 minutes, I think that's a very effective technique for learning. And, I kind of need it myself because I've been having some issues kind of getting over myself enough to do sparring. I haven't been doing sparring in a little while. And it's been a multitude of factors. Not all of them fear and all that based. I mean, we've had forest fires up here for, the last, I guess, week and a half or so, 2 weeks. And I mean, I basically took a week off of the show because the air quality was so bad around here that I had a sore throat. Like, my throat was irritated for several days. It still is, just a teeny tiny bit. The air quality isn't all that great right now, but it's much better than it has been. And I can really feel the difference. I went fishing the other day, and when I went to the specific place I went to, I was another, like, I want to say 2,000-3,000 feet above sea level. And so from that position, I was able to look out over the valley where I live, and there was still a black fucking cloud of shit over my house. I mean, you can't see it from looking directly up. The air's just a little more orange than it normally is. But when you get outside of the zone, man, when you get, a few more 1,000 feet up and you get level with it, it looks like a big fucking black cloud of shit up there. And so, when I came back home, my throat immediately started kind of clenching up. And I can now see, I've seen why that is. It's not a mystery to me anymore. Change in perspective kind of granted that to me. But yeah, so for those reasons, I haven't been training as hard. And, it's not something where I've gone completely dormant. I've actually been way more active, and away from my computer than I have been. But nonetheless, I haven't been doing as much jiu-jitsu as I would like. Well, today, from the beginning of the day, I felt a little bit better, and it seems like every day I'm feeling just a little bit better. So, I got to think that the air quality improving is having that effect on me. But I felt really good in jiu-jitsu today, and I'm even thinking that I might have to go in tomorrow too. We'll find out. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we're going to play some body count, because that's what we do here. But the question is, which song? And I felt so good at jiu-jitsu today. I just got to celebrate it, and so here it is. Carnivore by Body Count. First Dance. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Slipknot with All Hope Is Gone. I don't happen to believe it is. As a matter of fact, crypto gives me a lot of hope. Only because I see in it the possibility for, as disturbing as the rest of the economy is, for us to create our own currencies and manage to get through this shit. Aha. Anyway. As far as what we got on the grill today, I got a ton of stuff. And it seems like the financial world just held their breath until Monday to unload all kinds of stuff for us to report on today. But we're going to try and cover it. And this first one here I got is on Forbes.com. And this is authored September 21st, 2020 at 5:30 EDT PM, and this is by Jason Brett. So yes, penis. U.S. federal regulators allow banks to back digital dollar stablecoins. Oh, God. This is so funny. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, has issued its second letter this afternoon allowing U.S. financial institutions to back digital dollar stablecoins under the leadership of Acting Comptroller Brian Brooks. This letter permits U.S. financial institutions to hold deposits as reserves for stablecoins that represent fiat currency such as the U.S. dollar. The OCC regulates large national banks such as Wells Fargo and J.P. Morgan Chase, so the guidance from this agency only applies to national associations and federal savings banks. In cooperation with the OCC, a statement from the Securities and Exchange Commission, the agency that has for the most part dominated this area of regulation in the U.S., supported the actions as well. The OCC defines stablecoins narrowly in this letter as applying to a one-to-one backed stablecoin that represents a dollar. Stablecoins refer to cryptocurrency backed by an asset such as fiat currency, including U.S. dollars and or foreign currency, says the press release by the OCC. As in the last interpretive letter, where the OCC was permitted to custody crypto as part of a bank's safekeeping activity, this letter is as a response to a question from the banking industry, where the U.S. federal agency applies new guidance in specific situations. Quote, national banks and federal savings associations currently engage in stablecoin related activities. What? Get this. Engage in stablecoin related activities involving billions of dollars each day, acting comptroller of the currency Brian P. Brooks said, quote, this opinion provides greater regulatory certainty for banks within the federal banking system to provide those client services in a safe and sound manner. As mentioned, the SEC issued a statement to support the OCC's interpretation today. Quote, we believe that market participants may structure and sell a digital asset in such a way that it does not constitute a security and implicate the registration, reporting, and other requirements of the federal securities laws, says the statement, which comes from the SEC FinHub staff. The SEC does also look to caution that, quote, simply calling a cryptocurrency a stablecoin does not excuse such a cryptocurrency from being declared a security. Yeah, in other words, we might come after your ass for a cut too. For the OCC, the argument is laid out in its interpretive letter as written by Jonathan V. Gould, Senior Deputy Comptroller and Chief Counsel, clarifies the reason why the agency is offering this interpretive letter at this time. Quote, companies that issue stablecoins often desire to place funds backing the stablecoin or reserve funds with a U.S. bank, says the letter. Public independent auditors' statements of several stablecoin issuers indicate reserve funds are placed as deposits with U.S. banks. Several of these issuers promote those reserves and the fact that they are held by banks to support the trustworthiness of their stablecoin. In light of the public interest in these reserve accounts, this letter addresses the legal authority of national banks to hold stablecoin reserves on behalf of customers. Jeremy Allaire, the CEO and chairman of Circle, who is an issuer of the USD coin, owned by Goldman Sachs, commented, quote, "Today's newly issued guidance on and commentary from the U.S. Treasury's Office of the Comptroller of the Currency represents significant progress for the advancement of digital dollar stablecoins in the U.S. financial system." Allaire also noted that, quote, "As an issuer, the guidance validates the approach we have taken in building a resilient, powerful, and open standard for the use of digital dollars on the internet." Yeah, suck one. The USDC has increased from over $500 million in stablecoins to over $2 billion as of September 13th, showing the increased use of these types of digital assets. Recently, Allaire interviewed Brooks on his podcast called, quote, "The Money Movement," where the two discuss the digital dollar stablecoin together. To explain how this works in simplest terms, the letter offers an example where, quote, "Some stablecoin issuers may desire to place the cash reserves backing their issued stablecoin with a national bank. In the most basic example, a stablecoin issuer may seek to place its reserve funds in a deposit account with a national bank." Okay. The letter outlines the expectations of the OCC will have for banks that choose to hold reserves that back stablecoins, including an understanding of the risks related to cryptocurrency. Furthermore, the letter notes that banks who choose to hold reserves for stablecoins must conduct due diligence, including the Bank Secrecy Act and Know Your Customer requirements. Quote, "The due diligence process should facilitate an understanding of the risks of cryptocurrency and include a review for compliance with applicable laws and regulations, including those related to the Bank Secrecy Act, BSA, and anti-money laundering," states the letter. The OCC offers in its letter, quote, "how companies that issue stablecoins often desire to place the funds backing the stablecoin or reserve funds with the U.S. bank. Public independent auditors' statements of several stablecoin issuers indicate reserve funds." Wait a minute, whoa. Hold on. Public independent auditors' statements of several... We're going to have to put that one to the test. I would really like to know whose shit is being audited, and I would like to know who is doing the auditing. So let's do it. Bam. We're doing a quick little Google search here. Public independent auditors... stablecoins. Let's see what comes up. Okay, we got that. Circles, blah, blah, blah. Tied stablecoin fully backed auditors. Okay. Demystifying dual communications. Stablecoins promise functionality. Just reading through some of the synopsis here with challenges. Yeah, maybe. Alright. And we might even cover that one. Holy crap. Yeah. From what I'm seeing here, let's see. Top accounting firm specializing in audits for tax reserves launches stablecoin website for transparency. Okay. That sounds like what we're talking about here. Okay. Oh. All right. It would appear Gemini Dollar. Let's see. The first regulated stablecoin designed for high scale and usability in all kinds of transactions. Gemini Dollar is purpose-built to bring the value of U.S. dollar into the modern digital era. I don't want to read the white paper. I want to know where the reports are. Let's see here. About... I'm trying to find where... Because I found a link that said that these guys are hit with some sort of public auditors. Let's see here. Here's a trail of bits. Here we go, reports. Let's go with the latest one. They've got several here, but the last one is August 31st, 2020. And they seem to do one every month, it looks like. And that's cool. It's at least one step up over some others. And I don't know that others haven't tried to do this, but I want to go through this report. It's only 4 pages. And this is Gemini Dollar's cash balances, or Gemini Dollar and cash balances as of August 31st, 2020. See, one of my biggest complaints about stablecoins is that at some point or another you need to trust somebody as far as whether or not there are actually US dollars in existence to back the stablecoin that is floating around in the market, supposedly representing a dollar sitting in a bank account somewhere that is owned by the issuer of the stablecoin, right? And so it's been my contention, and it still is, that none of these entities, at least initially, have the backing that they say that they do. And so I got this report here, and it's supposedly from the independent accountants report for Gemini Dollar, and this is August 31st, 2020, and the audit committee, Gemini Dollar holders, Gemini Trust Company, LLC, 603rd Avenue, 2nd floor, New York, New York. Yeah, all right. Section 1, Independent Accounts Report, and this is from August 31st, 2020. The management of Gemini Trust Company, LLC, the company, has made an assertion, management assertion, in the accompanying report titled, quote, Management Report on Gemini Dollar and Cash Balances. The, quote, Management Report, BPM, LLP, BPM, or we, have examined the management assertion based on the criteria described in the management report to determine if the management assertion is fairly stated in all material respects. Fairly stated. They didn't use the word correct. They didn't use the word accurate. They said fairly stated. Oh, okay. Within a shadow of a doubt. The company's management is responsible for the management report and the management assertion, including their preparation, completeness, accuracy, and method of presentation, the identification of risks that would prevent the management assertion from being met, and the design and implementation of internal controls relevant to the management assertion. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on the management assertion based on our examination. Our examination was conducted in accordance with the attestation standards established by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Those standards require that we plan and perform the examination to obtain reasonable assurance, where the fuck is the comma in there, dude, about whether the management assertion is fairly stated in all material respects. Jesus Christ, they don't know what punctuation is. An examination involves performing procedures to obtain evidence about the management assertion. The nature, timing, oh God, somebody found the comma key. The nature, timing, and extent of the procedures selected depend on our judgment, including an assessment of the risks of material misstatement of the management assertion, whether due to fraud or error. Come on, man. Whoever wrote this, you need to be like taken out back by the grammar Nazis. We believe that the evidence we obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a reasonable basis for our opinion. Okay. We did not perform any procedures regarding the operating effectiveness of the company's internal controls, nor did we perform procedures relating to the background information provided by the company accompanying this report, the Independent Accountant's Report. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion thereon. In our opinion, the management assertion referred to above is fairly stated in all material respects as of August 31st, 2020 at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. This independent accountant's report is intended solely for the information and use of the company and the holders of Gemini dollars, and is not intended to be and should not be used by anyone other than those specified entities or parties. But we're going to use it anyway. Management report on Gemini dollar and cash balances. Gemini Trust Company, LLC, the company, has issued Gemini dollars to its customers. For each Gemini dollar issued, the company has received one corresponding dollar from its customers, which are held across one or more omnibus bank accounts at depository institutions insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and/or one or more money market accounts, collectively the Gemini dollar accounts. The Gemini dollar accounts are established and segregated specifically for the U.S. dollars that correspond to the Gemini dollars issued and in circulation. The management of the company hereby makes the following assertion. As of August 31st, 2020 at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, the amount of Gemini dollars issued and in circulation on the Ethereum blockchain does not exceed the U.S. dollar balance of the Gemini dollar accounts as reported below. Gemini dollars issued and in circulation, let's see here, $11,167,055.55. U.S. dollar balance of Gemini dollar accounts, $11,167,055.57. Signed, Cameron Winklevoss, President, Gemini Trust Company, August 31st, 2020. And let's see what the references says. Per the etherscan.io website located at etherscan.io, the Gemini dollar accounts are held and maintained at the State Street Bank and Trust Company and within a money market fund managed by Goldman Sachs. Oh, Jesus Christ! So that's two stable coins that Goldman Sachs is running. Asset management invested only in U.S. Treasury obligations, including securities issued or guaranteed by the U.S. Treasury, where the payment of principal and interest is backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Section 3. Background information provided by Gemini Trust Company, LLC. This information has not been examined by the company's independent accountant. The Gemini dollar is a cryptographic stored value token that is 1. Issued by Gemini Trust Company, LLC, the company, a New York trust company. 2. Strictly pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar and built on the Ethereum network according to the ERC-20 standard for tokens. The Gemini dollar combines the creditworthiness and price stability of the US dollar with blockchain technology and the oversight of U.S. regulators, namely the New York State Department of Financial Services, NYDFS. The company is a New York trust company and operates under the direct supervision of the NYDFS and is subject to the capital reserve requirements, cybersecurity requirements, and banking compliance standards set forth by the NYDFS and the New York banking law. Gemini obtained approval from the NYDFS to issue Gemini dollars and began issuing Gemini dollars on September 9th, 2018, making the Gemini dollar the first regulated stablecoin in the world. The company is responsible for safeguarding the private keys that control the underlying smart contracts of the Gemini dollar. Yeah. This is not an independent audit valid of anything. Basically, it's Gemini saying, we've got the money because we say we've got the money. Any questions? Question 1, do you have the money? Yeah, we got the money. Well, how do we know that you got the money? Well, we did an audit of ourselves, and we think we have the money. It's fairly stated in this report that we have the money. Would you trust somebody that was saying that to you? Saying, hey, yo, I want you to invest in my thing, and all the audits on it, we do them, and we're backed by Goldman Sachs, and we're backed by the NYDFS, and Goldman Sachs pretty much owns the NYDFS, or is a big owner or stakeholder in the NYDFS, in the New York Fed, that is. You know, if there were like some sort of antitrust thing that really needed to be addressed, I think that the issuer of the currency that circulates in our economy and the entity that does our banking or is a bank, I don't believe they should be the same entity. And like in the case of the NYDFS, not only are they the same entity, but they're the same entity that sets the rules for the rest of the states. And they've literally gone to court, as I pointed out multiple times on the show, with the U.S. Treasury over exactly who gets to fucking tell who what a fucking bank they are, or whether they can be a bank. And the NYDFS's assertion is, yo man, it's our money, so you know, we get to tell you, the U.S. Treasury, who gets to be a bank and get credit for it. You know, get credit to be able to issue to other people and all that other business. We're the people that do that. You know, you can't do that. And the U.S. Treasury apparently won't, because they've been making other people charter banks willy-nilly. And it seems to me that there's an effort to switch us over to a digital dollar, and that somehow it being represented by an ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain, and the cash reserves are audited by the issuer, and they say they're all good, and we just got to believe that somewhere there's a bank account, and you know somebody's getting the dollars. You know, Gemini's getting the dollars, and the dollars are sitting in a bank, and they're backing the Gemini tokens that we've been issued. I can't state it any other way. I believe that all along the way, there's probably maybe like $1 million, maybe even total of $1 billion that is acting as collateral for about $30 to $40 billion worth of stablecoin tokens, meaning there's like $1 billion out there in a bank account. No, I'm not making any assertion for who owns it. It could be a private entity, it could be an individual, it could be JP Morgan, it could be Goldman Sachs, you know, it could be the Pentagon, I don't know. But $1 billion exists in a bank account. And people have been willing to take it on faith that $1 billion exists, and that they are the only guarantors they're the only people that are using it as collateral for their stable coins, when in fact there are multiple entities that are doing so, and the bank that's holding the $1 billion, they're more than willing to issue credit against it, because you know it's all happening on the web, and it's all happening on the blockchain, and so it's all wonderful there. But it's creating a great deal of inflation, at least within the crypto sphere. And I believe it's displacing some of the monetary value that would be expressing in the value of altcoins. I believe altcoins should be appreciating, and specifically against the US dollar, and specifically because so many of them have been issued in the not so recent past. Or, I don't know, it's pretty recent. Anyway. But yeah, so I don't believe you, Gemini. I don't give a fuck you say you audit yourself and that you say that you've got the money. I don't believe you. But I wanted to shift gears just a little bit because it seems that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on out there with regard to the legacy markets and the legacy banking system. And I guess it's recently coming to light that they've been doing all kinds of transactions for criminal entities. And yeah, so let's get into this. And this is on the HinduBusinessLine.com. Oh, I'm wondering if this is just, yeah, because, oh yeah, we're definitely going to cover this one. Sorry about that, it's getting a little dry. Anyway, banks moved $2 trillion defying money laundering orders. And this is, I guess, a report by the ICIJ. It's on the HinduBusinessLine.com. And this is published on September 21st, 2020. And, yeah, updated on same. Leaked documents are tied to dodgy transactions between 1999 and 2017. A new investigation by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, says JP Morgan Chase & Co., Deutsche Bank AG, and several global banks kept profiting from powerful and dangerous players in the past 2 decades, even after the U.S. imposed penalties on these financial institutions. The report, based on leaked documents obtained by BuzzFeed News and shared with the consortium, said that in some cases the banks kept moving illicit funds after receiving warnings from U.S. officials. The documents identified more than $2 trillion in transactions between 1999 and 2017 that were flagged by financial institutions' internal compliance officers as possible money laundering or other criminal activity, the report said. The top 2 banks are Deutsche Bank, which disclosed $1.3 trillion of suspicious money in the files, and JP Morgan, which disclosed $514 billion, the analysis found. The investigation was based on more than 2,100 suspicious activity reports filed by banks with the U.S. Department of Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. The report, dubbed the FinCEN files, was the result of an investigation by more than 100 news organizations in 88 countries, the newsfeed said. Bloomberg News wasn't included in the consortium and hasn't seen the leaked documents. And I think I've got a tab to that, and we're going to go to that next if at all possible here. Malaysia's 1MDB scandal. One example highlighted in the report, JP Morgan moved more than $1 billion for the fugitive financier behind Malaysia's 1MDB scandal based on records. The bank also processed payments for Paul Manafort, the former campaign manager for President Trump, after he resigned from the campaign amid money laundering and corruption allegations from his work with a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine, according to the investigation. JP Morgan told ICIJ that it was legally prohibited from discussing clients or transactions. It said it has taken a leadership role in pursuing proactive intelligence-led investigations. Quote, We report suspicious activity to the government so that law enforcement can combat financial crime, the bank said in a statement to Bloomberg News. Quote, "We have played a leadership role in anti-money laundering reform that will modernize how the government and law enforcement combat money laundering, terrorism financing, and other financial crimes." Compliance staff in big banks, often overworked and lacking in resources, relied on basic Google searches to find out the identity of the people behind money transfers, the ICIJ said. Banks often funneled suspicious activity reports only after a transaction or customer became the subject of a negative news report or a government probe. When the funds are long gone, ICIJ says, citing the documents. Bank Policy Institute, an industry group, said banks can't tell their side of the story for legal reasons. Based on past instances, the cases are likely connected to requests by law enforcement to keep a so-called suspicious account opened so authorities are able to track where the money is going before mounting an arrest or conviction, it said. Deutsche Bank responded in a statement that ICIJ has reported on a number of historic issues, and those related to the bank are well known to regulators. The issues have been investigated and led to regulatory solutions in which the bank's cooperation and remediation was publicly recognized, it said. Let me see if there's comments on this. Nope, no comments. Yeah, and so I'd come across that shit, trying to find the tab that I had open here. Yeah. Let me see if I can actually find the FinCEN files themselves. Let's see here. FinCEN file. Deadly terror networks. Oh, jeez. Yeah, we got that. ICIJ FinCEN files 1 day ago. Download. Oh, we can download the FinCEN files transaction data if we want. All right. Well, I have I have a story on it. Let me see here. No. Yeah, here we go. This is on BuzzFeed News. Dirty money pours into the world's most powerful banks. And let's see here if we can get to the actual thing. It's giving us this thing here. Alright, so the FinCEN files. Thousands of suspicious activity reports offer a never-before-seen picture of the corruption and complicity and how the government lets it flourish. And this is posted on September 20th, 2020 at 1:01 p.m. Eastern Time. And it does not give us a direct... Oh, wait, see, this is by Jason Leupold, Anthony Cormier, John Templon, Tom Warren, Jeremy Singer-Vine, Scott Pham, Richard Holmes, Aziz Guriashi, Michael Salah, Tanya Koziriva, my apologies, ma'am, and Emma Loop. And posted on September 20th, 2020 at 1:01 p.m. And so let me do a count here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 penises and 2 no penis. A huge trove of secret government documents reveals for the first time how the giants of Western banking move trillions of dollars in suspicious transactions, enriching themselves and their shareholders, while facilitating the work of terrorists, kleptocrats, and drug kingpins. And the U.S. government, despite its vast powers, fails to stop it. Today, the FinCEN files thousands of, quote, suspicious activity reports and other U.S. government documents offer an unprecedented view of global financial corruption, the banks enabling it, and the government agencies that watch as it flourishes. BuzzFeed News has shared these reports with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and more than 100 news organizations in 88 countries. These documents, compiled by banks, shared with the government but kept from public view, expose the hollowness of banking safeguards and the ease of which criminals have exploited them. Profits from deadly drug wars, fortunes embezzled from developing countries, and hard-earned savings stolen in a Ponzi scheme were all allowed to flow into and out of these financial institutions, despite warnings from banks' own employees. Money laundering is a crime that makes other crimes possible. It can accelerate economic inequality, drain public funds, undermine democracy, and destabilize nations. And the banks play a key role. Quote, some of these people in these crisp white shirts in their sharp suits are feeding off the tragedy of people dying all over the world, said Martin Woods, a former suspicious transactions investigator for Wachovia. Fucking Wachovia. Dude, you must not have worked there in the last 10 years of their never mind. The laws that were meant to stop financial crime have instead allowed it to flourish. So long as bank files a notice that it may be facilitating criminal activity, it all but immunizes itself and its executives from criminal prosecution. The suspicious activity alert effectively gives them a free pass to keep moving the money and collecting the fees. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, is the agency within the Treasury Department charged with combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and other financial crimes. It collects millions of these suspicious activity reports, known as SARs. It makes them available to U.S. law enforcement agencies and other national financial intelligence operations. It even compiles a report called Kleptocracy Weekly that summarizes the dealings of foreign leaders such as Russian President Vladimir Putin. What it does not do is force the banks to shut money laundering down. In the rare instances when the U.S. government does crack down on banks, it often relies on sweetheart deals called deferred prosecution agreements, which include fines but no high-level arrests. The Trump administration has made it even harder to hold executives personally accountable under guidance by former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein that warned government agencies against, quote, piling on. But the FinCEN Files investigation shows that even after they were prosecuted or fined for financial misconduct, banks such as JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, Standard Chartered, Deutsche Bank, and the Bank of New York Mellon continued to move money for suspected criminals. Suspicious payments flow around the world and into countries from international sports to Hollywood entertainment to luxury real estate to Nobu sushi restaurants. They filter into the companies that make familiar items from people's lives, from the gas in their car to the granola in their cereal bowl. The FinCEN files expose an underlying truth of the modern era. The networks through which dirty money dirty money traverses the world have become vital arteries of the global economy. They enable a shadow financial system so wide-ranging and so unchecked that it has become inextricable from the so-called legitimate economy. Banks with household names have helped to make it so. Dude, they're banks! They're private companies. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make money. BuzzFeed News investigation shows that number one, Standard Chartered moved money on behalf of Al Zaruni Exchange, a Dubai-based business that was later accused of laundering cash on behalf of the Taliban. During the years that Al Zaruni was a Standard Chartered customer, Taliban militants staged violent attacks that killed civilians and soldiers, meaning we wanted it to happen. Number two, HSBC's Hong Kong branch allowed WCM 777, a Ponzi scheme, to move more than $15 million even as the business was being barred from operating in 3 states. Authorities say the scam stole at least $80 million from investors, mainly Latino and Asian immigrants, and the company's owner used the looted funds to buy 2 golf courses, a 7,000 square foot mansion, a 39.8 carat diamond, and mining rights in Sierra Leone. 3. Bank of America, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, American Express, and others collectively processed millions of dollars in transactions for the family of Viktor Krapunov, the former mayor of Kazakhstan's most populous city, even after Interpol issued a red notice for his arrest. Krapunov, who had already fled into Switzerland and who claims the allegations are politically motivated, was later convicted in absentia on charges that include bribe-taking and defrauding the city through the sale of public property. The banks mentioned in this story said they could not comment on specific transactions due to bank secrecy laws. Their statements can be found here. By law, banks must file suspicious activity reports when they spot transactions that bear the hallmarks of money laundering or other financial misconduct, such as large round number transactions or payments between companies with no discernible business relationship. SARS are not by themselves evidence of a crime, but FinCEN's director, Kenneth Blanco, has called them, quote, vital for law enforcement investigations. Information from millions of these documents feeds into a single database through which law enforcement officers can summon detailed financial information with a few keystrokes. The FinCEN Files opens a rare window into this vast system of financial intelligence, unmatched in the world but all unknown to the public. These SARs themselves are so closely held that members of the public cannot obtain them through records requests or subpoenas, and banks are not allowed even to confirm their existence. Prior to this reporting, very few SARs had ever been revealed. The FinCEN Files encompass more than 2,100 of them. For more than a year, BuzzFeed News and its partner news organizations across the world mined the information on these tens of thousands of pages to map more than 200,000 transactions. Here's an explanation of how we did it. In all, suspicious activity reports in the FinCEN Files flagged more than $2 trillion in transactions between 1999 and 2017. Western banks could have blocked almost any of them, but in most cases they kept the money moving and kept collecting their fees. Suspicious activity reports are written by the banks by the bank's financial crime watchdogs or compliance officers, who are often parked in remote offices and left to make sense of a vast number of transactions with very few resources, riding SARS with little research or verification. BuzzFeed News research went much further, including reams of international bank data, thousands of public records, hundreds of interviews with sources across the globe, dozens of Freedom of Information Act filings, 5 public records lawsuits, and requests for 3 federal courts to unseal records, all to piece together the intricacies of a financial system that is largely hidden. BuzzFeed News is not publishing the SARS in full because they contain information about people or companies that are not under suspicion but who were swept up in the bank's searches. A subset of the documents is being published with redactions to support reporting in specific stories. After the Treasury Department received detailed questions about the FinCEN Files investigation, the agency released a statement saying it was, quote, aware that various media outlets intend to publish a series of articles based on unlawfully disclosed suspicious activity reports, SARs, it continued. The authorization disclosure of SARs is a crime that can impact the national security of the United States, compromise law enforcement investigations, and threaten the safety and security of the institutions and individuals who file such reports. The agency announced that it was referring to the matter of the Department of Justice and the Treasury Department's Office of Inspector General. In a subsequent letter, FinCEN's general counsel said that that disclosure of SARs can make banks less willing to file them, which, quote, could mean law enforcement has fewer potential leads to stop crimes like human trafficking, child exploitation, fraud, corruption, terrorism, and cyber-enabled crime. You know what? That's bullshit. They can file subpoenas for people's individual records when they actually accuse them of having done a crime. Sorry. It gives you one less look up our fucking skirt here without our permission. Too fucking bad. FinCEN did not respond to repeated invitations to discuss security concerns. Let me check something out here really quick here. And it seems everything is cool. Alright. Senator Ron Wyden, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which requested some of these SARs, said that the FinCEN Files investigation, quote, reinforces the fact that we now have 2 systems of law enforcement and justice in this country. Drug cartels move millions through U.S. banks. Poor people go to jail for possession. Quote, if you're wealthy and well-connected, you can figure out how to do an enormous amount of harm to society at large and ensure that it accrues to the enormous financial benefit for all of you. I have to take exception to that. I think that if the money is circulating into regular U.S. banks, that means that it's also being borrowed against and things are being facilitated. I mean, where do you think the money comes from for those banks to be issuing loans? At least part of it is collateralized customer funds. Continuing on. Robert Mazur, a former federal special agent and an expert in money laundering, said that making this material public, quote, could enhance national security, aid future investigations, and encourage institutions to more consistently adhere to SARS filing requirements, and, quote, will hopefully get people who are in a position of power to correct an apparent systemic failure. No, wrong. That is the wrong take, Robert. The fact of the matter is you will never get a hold of it. It happens this way for a reason. It's because the vast majority of the money circulating into these banks is coming from illicit activity. So when somebody comes in there with a briefcase of millions of fucking dollars, they don't bitch about it. They just say, yeah, sure, we'll set up an account for you, no problem. Sure, we'll federally insure that large sum of money you want to deposit in our account. Absolutely. That's not a systemic failure. That's called commerce. It's called business. And trying to eliminate it, trying to take it away from the American public, has created this situation where all kinds of financing is going to quote-unquote illicit activity, when in fact it is just people expressing their will with their money. Continuing on. Based in the United Arab Emirates, Mazaka General Trading presented itself to the world as a wholesaler. Oh, wait a minute. I think this is actually a different story. No, it says the historic opportunity, and it continues on like it's the same article here. Between March 2013 and April 2014, the company received nearly $50 million from 5 companies involved in a Russian money laundering ring that manipulated international stock trades. In May and June 2014, it received more than $4 million from a Singapore company that appears barely even to exist. It was also sending and receiving money from British firms located at 175 Darks Lane, one of the world's most notorious addresses for shell companies, which are a common tool to hide ownership. These transactions by Mazaka General Trading, which the Treasury Department later declared to be part of the Kanani money laundering network, a group that has financed terrorism, drug cartels around the globe, involved businesses and people far from the shores of the United States. But as the money pinged around from one bank to another, it was all being tracked, and it would all be reported to the Treasury Department. Because the US dollar is the lifeblood of international finance, the common denominator between the world's disparate currencies, banking customers around the world need access to it. But only select banks are licensed to conduct dollar transactions. So, smaller banks in other countries partner with large institutions which exchange their customers' pesos, yuan, or dirham for greenbacks. For a fee, the arrangement known as correspondent banking helps keep the global economy humming. As they pass through the U.S. banks, these transfers give the Treasury Department advantage that no other country has. It shares some of the information with the Egmont Group, a little-known coalition of financial intelligence units from more than 150 countries and territories. SARS have provided Egmont members with financial details that would be otherwise unattainable, such as those concerning former Olympic Committee member Louine Diac, who has been sentenced to prison for crimes connected to the Russian doping scandal, and the Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, who was sanctioned by the U.S. 2 years ago. Deripaska has sued the U.S. government, maintaining that he is an innocent victim of politics. But if the database is a powerful asset to law enforcement investigations, to privacy advocates, it is a nightmare of overreach. Congress created the current SAR program in 1992, making banks the front line in the fight against money laundering. But Michael German, a former FBI special agent who is a national security and privacy expert, said that after 9/11, the SAR program became more about mass surveillance than identifying discrete transactions to disrupt money launderers. Today, he said, quote, the data is used like the data from other mass surveillance programs. Find someone you want to get for whatever reason, then sift through the vast troves of data collected to find anything you can hang them with. In 2017, when the U.S. congressional committees began investigating the last presidential election and other matters, they too turned to the Treasury Department database. They requested SARs on Deutsche Bank, which had loaned Trump money, Christopher Steele, the former MI6 agent who wrote the so-called Trump dossier, an array of Russian oligarchs, Trump's former campaign chairperson Paul Manafort, and even a small casino in the Pacific run by a former Trump employee. All told, they were looking for information on more than 200 entities. FinCEN unearthed tens of thousands of pages of documents. Those documents, along with a few additional SAR requested by the federal law enforcement authorities, make up the majority of the FinCEN files. Some were never turned over to the committees that requested them. A person familiar with the matter blew the whistle to multiple members of Congress. The coalition does not include any SARs, or the collection rather, does not include any SARs about Trump's finances. A source familiar with the matter told BuzzFeed News that FinCEN's database did not contain SARs on either Trump or the Trump Organization, and although the documents show suspicious payments to people in Trump's orbit before and after key moments in the 2016 presidential campaign, they do not provide direct information on any election interference. Because the searches were so broad, however, they revealed something that most in Congress hadn't even been looking for: evidence that the world's biggest banks kept doing business with clients that they themselves suspected were facilitating terror and corruption. The information was laid out in transaction by transaction, and it had been there all along. Another chance, and then another. The FinCEN received more than 2 million SARs last year. The number has nearly doubled over the past decade as financial institutions have faced mounting pressure to file, and volume of international transactions has grown. Over the same period, FinCEN's staff has shrunk by more than 10%. Sources there say most SARs have never even been read, let alone acted upon. Meanwhile, some banks treat SARs as kind of a get out of jail free card, filing alerts about a huge array of transactions without actually moving to halt them. In some cases, banks filed numerous reports on the same clients, detailing their suspected crimes over the course of years, while continuing to welcome their business. By December 2013, JP Morgan Chase had filed at least 8 SARs on accounts and companies controlled by Manafort, flagging more than $10